Hello everyone, this is Angela here, and today I want to talk about narcissism and when the roles of parent and child are reversed. And I want to talk a little bit about that today, just to see if there's anyone out here that can identify with this. Okay. In my case, my mother was very narcissistic. She was very silly. She was very childlike. She was very emotionally immature. She was mommy coddled to the point where she really didn't know how to be a mother. You know what I'm saying? She didn't know how to be a mother in the sense of meeting our physical and emotional needs. But aside from all that, there was like this role reversal where the kid became the parent and the parent became the child, because I felt that I had responsibilities that were age inappropriate, okay? And also, like, my mother used to talk to me about things as if I was another adult, if that makes any sense. And I want to give you a couple examples of this. The first example that I want to give is one time my mom was talking to this man who was interested in buying our house. My father wasn't there, and I remember I was about 8 or 9 years old, and I remember that I was in my mom's presence, and the guy was, I don't know, he was giving her a lowball amount for the house, and she looks at me as if to, like, is that okay with you type of look, and I just shrugged my shoulders saying, I don't know, right? So she accepted that man's offer, and then later on, it was discussed amongst other adults, and my mom, the other adults were saying, oh my God, why did you accept such a lowball offer? And my mom made up the story, she twisted it, and she said, well, it's because my daughter said, well, you only paid $6,200 for this house. Keep in mind, this was in the 1970s, so, yeah. And so that's why he didn't offer me more, because she had said something which was absolutely untrue. And then the adults were like, well, she shouldn't have said anything, and why did you allow her to say that, and blah, 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 and all this drama started. But you see how they project blame on someone else, and that was like constant with my mother. She would project blame on me, especially when I didn't even do anything. Like, I was just a kid. So another example is the way my brother used to tell them what to do, meaning both my parents. It's like, yo, get down there and wash my clothes. He would tell her, or, go do this. Like, he gave the instructions and telling her what to do. And she gave him authority that was inappropriate. Okay, especially when he wasn't there. When they weren't there, especially when my parents weren't home, because they worked a lot. And so we spent a lot of time home with my brother. And during that time, my brother could do anything he wanted to. Okay, if he wanted to tie us up with my dad's neckties, he was allowed to do that. If he wanted to hit us with Hot Wheel racing tracks, he was allowed to do that. If he wanted to beat us up and bark orders at us, he was allowed to do that. And nothing would happen to him, okay? Nothing would happen to him. He was totally allowed to do whatever the hell he pleased, okay? Another example of parentification and age inappropriateness for children was the fact that I recall having to wash my own clothes at 8 years old. Otherwise, I would have to wear dirty clothes because you just didn't wash them. Seriously. So I remember this one time. I was, I guess, around 7 or 8 years old, and I had washed an outfit that my grandmother had bought, my grandparents had bought for me. It was like a dressy kid's outfit. So I remember being in the basement and trying to get it to dry quickly. I don't remember if our dryer was broken or, that I had to dry it quickly because we had someplace to go. And I put the iron on the pants, and the iron made a hole in it. And I was like, right, ooh, like that. So I didn't say anything. So when my grandmother found out that outfit was ruined, she blamed it on the cat chewing it. And I didn't say anything because I didn't want to get beat. So, yeah, that was like another instance. It's like all because my mother couldn't be responsible. Now, when it came to mealtime or whatever, my dad we often had to wait for my dad to come home from work, which was late at night, like it was past bedtime, but we had to wait because there was nothing to eat. And, being that my mom was a hoarder, the refrigerator was really nasty. It had rotten food in it, and it just was not sanitary. And so we would look forward to my dad coming home because he would bring home like junk food from the neighborhood sub shop, and sometimes, he tried to encourage my mom to cook, but my mom, being as slick as she was, she would make the food to where it was unedible. For example, something as simple as spaghetti, right? Let's say my mom ate spaghetti. Well, a lot of times we would be out playing, because, we just wanted to be out of the house because the house was just so disgusting. So we would be out. So she would cook a pot of spaghetti because for whatever reason my dad didn't have money to go to the pizza shop or whatever to buy stuff. And she wouldn't even strain the spaghetti, okay? And by the time we got in for supper, that spaghetti looked like a slimy mess. And not only that, there was a roach floating in the dead water, and she expected us to eat that. So it was not only disgusting, it was kind of cruel, if you ask me. So how we used to manage was, a lot of times I would try to get myself invited over my girlfriend's house for dinner, like a friend or something. I did that a lot of the times. A lot of times I would, if, it was summer, I would ride my bike to my grandmother's house. Even in the winter I did. Like if the weather wasn't bad, I would ride my bike to my grandmother's house, and a lot of times she would drive me home. And, so this woman was very irresponsible. She was not responsible. Like the things that like a normal child would take for granted, these things were not done for me. And I always used to think that everybody else's life was better. And I always used to want, I always used to wonder, why can't my parents be normal? You know what I'm saying? Why can't they go out and why can't she have a clean house? Why can't I have a home cooked meal like my friends? Why can't my mom be like my grandmom and, have a hot meal on the table or whatever? Just the simplest things that most kids take for granted. My parents just, my dad did care. Don't get me wrong. My dad cared. He did. But as I said in my other videos, my dad was also emotionally stunted. He had a real bad codependency problem because he was mommy coddled. He didn't have the balls to leave her. And she covertly ran the show. Okay? She knew how to make people feel sorry for her and act like the victim and triangulate situations, and really it was just unbelievable. The way, my grandparents used to wait on her. like they were like servants for her. It was ridiculous. She never even had to clear her plate or wash a dish or do anything. It's like she expected her parents to treat her as if she was a little girl, okay? And then she expected her kids to treat her the same way. It was absolutely ridiculous. It was ridiculous. And I'm sure that there are people out here that have experienced this, but at the time, it's like, I just found it to be quite strange. And, you know, my brother was mean. He could do whatever he wanted. And there was just no boundaries. Boundaries were constantly being crossed. And it had disastrous consequences as an adult because we all just went no contact, okay? Just no contact. I finally got fed up after going 2 years of therapy. And what I did, you know, I just went no contact. I went no contact with my brother and pretty much, you know, because that behavior, okay, continued as an adult. He would bark orders at me. Like whenever a situation needed some type of cause for attention, it was like my job to fix everything for my parents, okay? For example, when my Aunt Carol died, my dad's sister, okay, she died in 2001 of breast cancer. Well, my dad didn't have anything to wear, so I had to take him shopping, and I had to buy him something to wear out of my own pocket, and I had to go to the funeral director, and I had to make the funeral arrangements, and it's like, he didn't offer to lift for anything, and it's like, you know what, it got to the point that when I went through that whole thing with the Wicked Attraction, where my mom and I had this big blowout, you know, I did plenty of videos talking about that, how, you know, I got to the point where I got fed up, okay? My mother was getting older. She started to commit crimes, and she started getting involved with people that were shady people, and, you know, it was like, my brother got mad because I got fed up after being served with the restraining order, which, by the way, was thrown out because the judge saw right through this nonsense. And I was just like, you know what? I don't care anymore. I'm done. I've had enough. I want to live my life for myself. It's not my responsibility to be my mother's mommy, okay? And I had gotten that way towards my dad, too, after I had went through that severe depression, and the therapist was like, refuse to listen to him, hang up the phone, don't answer your door, set some boundaries, you know. And unfortunately, when you're a child that has been parentified, you take on the role as you're responsible for your parents, okay? Now, I'm not saying that to not help your parents as they grow old, you know, when you have good and loving parents, of course you want to make sure that mom and dad, you know, are not being taken advantage of or harmed in their old age. And sometimes you need to make decisions about what to do with regard to nursing homes or whatever. But when it comes to mommy coddling and you being the adult child parent of your parent, I think that is unacceptable, okay? And if you're dealing with a situation like that, I highly recommend mental health therapy to set some boundaries and to sort this all out, because it's really important for your well-being and your safety, you know, because I'll tell you this much too. It's like I lost a lot of relationships, potential relationships, because of this issue, and you know, it was no good. And It also affected my relationship with my children. So with that, I'm just like rambling on here. So I am going to stop this video, and I will catch you all in the next video. Take care.